UNEA 7. We're meeting here in the city of Nairobi, the seat of UNEP and the heart of multilateralism, so that we can all make collective efforts with a view to implementing our emblem. In my capacity as president of this meeting and representing of the Sultanate of Oman, from which we have learned wisdom, it is my pleasure to lead these collective efforts to achieve a more sustainable future. Today, we reiterate our common responsibilities and to translate our determination for the two concrete actions for the stability of our planet and for the interest of our nations. We are meeting here at a very important juncture. All communities across the world are facing the impact of climate change and pollution. These challenges are not only threatening our communities across the world, but undermine our collective efforts. We are not starting at scratch. UNEA has proved that multilateralism can only be successful when it is based on scientific evidence and practical solutions. I would like to express my heart appreciation to Madam Executive Director, Madam Anderson, and her outstanding team for all their efforts that have had an impact, a positive impact on the preparation for this session. We are called upon this week to take solutions that will trace our future efforts. This week we will dwell on the discussion of a number of resolutions in addition to the ministerial declaration, as well as the new medium strategy, as well as the program and budget program for the years 26-27. This will shape our vision of a resilient planet. With the beginning of our deliberations, I would like to stress that our success is not only measured by our outcome, but by the approach that we take to implement our resolutions based on inclusiveness and determination, as well as responsibility and cooperation. Colleagues, UNEA has been established to express the world environmental conscience so that it can be the benchmark to protect our planet. This spirit of consensus will be our example for our efforts today. So let's cooperate to serve our planet. Let me focus on the following pillars to achieve our success. First of all, ambition. We need ambition because implementation is insufficient to cope with the pace of change. Commitments, that solidarity, because resilience is built together or will not be built at all. Third, we need to be guided by science. As a host of UNEP reports published here, while the challenges before us on climate, on nature, and land degradation, and pollution and waste are immense, but they can be surmountable. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to reflect on what can be a real success for our UNEA session. I am confident that we will all succeed if we adopt the following. First, if we adopt implementable resolutions that are guided by science and are based on mechanisms that will move us quickly from wording to action. Second, we have to be unified, strong, and solution-oriented. And that's why our ministerial action should be guided by all of this, so that we can share our ambition and provide political momentum for implementation. Then we need resources. We need a strategy that empower our programs and make us work together as member states to deliver results where they matter most. Then we have to renew our coherence, and especially coherence among our MEAs, ensuring that the environment is governed by the interconnected system, and so that we can build a planet that can be resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, if we leave Nairobi by the end of this assembly with resolutions that can be swiftly implemented, and if we adopt a unifying declaration and a robust UNEP strategy ready to support implementation, then we can say that UNEA 7 will have fulfilled its mission of charting a credible, cooperative, and scientific-driven path toward a resilient planet. I count on your full engagement and wisdom to serve our people and our responsibilities to future generations. I would like to reaffirm that the presidency of UNEA stands ready to facilitate your work and to help you build the bridges that we need to achieve the success that is hoped for by our world. Thank you very much, and may the blessings of God be upon you all.
أدعو الجمعية الآن.
I call upon the UNEA to attend a video message by Her Excellency Ms. Amina Mohammed, the Under Secretary of the United Nations.
Your Excellency Abdullah bin Ali Al Amir, Chair of the Environment Authority of Oman, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues and friends, I send warm wishes to Nairobi, a city that embodies the promise of our shared future and a home of environmental multilateralism. I also wish to express my deep gratitude to the Government of Kenya for its hospitality and leadership at this pivotal moment. Now is the time for nations to come together and turn promises into action, to strengthen our planet's resilience and deliver prosperity for all. Though I am unable to join you in person at UNEA 7, I stand firmly with you in spirit and purpose. We must act with a sense of urgency to safeguard the health of our planet and the well-being of our fellow people, as agreed in the Pact of the Future. We must also seize this opportunity to advance collective environmental action, which is at the heart of our 2030 agenda. There will never be a better time than now to invest in a stable climate, thriving ecosystems, and resilient lands, or in sustainable development that delivers for all. We'll need to draw on valuable lessons, protect what works, and champion innovations at scale. And we'll need to ensure that multilateralism is more than just words, that it delivers tangible results for people and for planet. Coming so soon after the conclusion of COP30, we must carry forward the momentum generated in Belém, demonstrating that when countries, civil society and youth come together, real progress is possible, from protecting forests to increasing climate finance to advancing the rights of indigenous peoples and women. Despite some notable progress, efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals are significantly off track, with dangerous consequences for our well-being, our economies and our planet. The evidence on climate is all around us. In UNEP's latest emissions gap report, which warns that we will overshoot the 1.5-degree red line within the next decade, meaning we must act boldly to bring global temperatures back down as quickly as possible. In the adaptation gap report, which finds that developing countries will need up to $365 billion annually by 2035 for adaptation, meaning that the big CO2 emitters must quickly step up their support. And in the droughts, disasters and other calamities that keep growing with frequency, scale and severity. 20 to 40% of the world's land has been degraded, affecting over 3 billion people. 1 million species are at risk of extinction, and 9 million people a year die prematurely due to pollution. We cannot afford for our long-term investments in prosperity and stability to remain disconnected from our green agenda. Meeting our sustainable development commitments, including those on climate, is still within reach. But it requires a reformed green agenda that is financially viable, socially equitable, and politically relevant. As your discussions unfold this week, I urge you to commit to bold and transformative action for a healthy planet, healthy people, and healthy economies. Thank you.
باسمكم أشكر نائبة الأمين العام على تمنياتها الطيبة لهذه الدورة بالنجاح والتوفيق. الآن أن أدعو المديرة التنفيذية لبرنامج الأمم المتحدة للبيئة السيدة أنجر أندرسون لإلقاء كلمتها الافتتاحية.
Thank you very much and good morning. To you, dear Excellency Abdullah bin Ali Al Amri, President of UNEP 7. To you, our dear host, Your Excellency Deborah Malongo Barasa, Cabinet Secretary of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry here in Kenya. Excellency and our dear Chair of the CPR, Excellency Ambassador Sultan Hajayev, Chair of the CPR, and to my two sisters here, first, Zainab Hawa Bangura, Director General of UNON, and certainly not least, Elizabeth Marema, Deputy Director of UNEP. To all distinguished ministers, ambassadors, distinguished guests, friends, and partners, welcome to UNEP 7. Welcome to Nairobi, the environmental capital of the world, and to this 7th session of UNEP. My deep thanks first to the Government of Kenya for their commitment not only to hosting UNEP, but to hosting our regular guests who come at regular intervals to this beautiful city here in Nairobi. My thanks also, of course, to the President of UNEP 7, Minister El Amri, and the Chair of the CPR for all their hard work and leadership. And a warm and deep thanks to the many donors who have contributed to the organization of this assembly in alphabetical order: Australia, Azerbaijan, Belgium, Denmark, the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, Finland, Germany, Hungary, Luxembourg, Monaco, Oman, Philippines, Sweden, and Switzerland. We are grateful. This assembly is the world's most influential environmental decision-making body. This assembly has a track record of success. This assembly has consistently demonstrated unity to set a trajectory for action on the 3 planetary environmental crises: the crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature and land and biodiversity loss and desertification, and the crisis of pollution and waste. This year, this assembly must draw on history of unity and again deliver sustainable solutions for a resilient planet. Solutions that back long-term economic growth, poverty reduction, social cohesion, improved human and planetary health, and so much more. This assembly must now dig deeper than ever because the environmental challenges are accelerating. The rising average global temperature, as we heard from the Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Amina Mohammed, will, we are sorry to conclude, exceed 1.5 degrees within the next decade, bringing escalating consequences with every fraction of a degree. And we are seeing ecosystems disappearing and land degrading, dust storms intensifying, toxins continue to pollute our air, our water, and our land. So this assembly must dig deep, because the world is in turbulent geopolitical waters, which adds stresses and strains to the multilateral processes. And therefore, I ask that we all commit to keep our eyes on the horizon and to reach across the table for consensus, to safeguard our planet, to be ambitious so that we can safeguard our collective future. But even through tough times, the environmental community has found consensus in 2025. We saw very important advances at the climate talks in Belém, particularly on financing adaptation and on deforestation efforts. The BBNJ agreement on sustainable use of marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction entered into force. And the new Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution was gavelled earlier this year in Uruguay. A panel that, I remind you, emerged from this assembly from a UNEP 5 resolution. And we know exactly what we must do, and we also know what we stand to gain. The 7th edition of UNEP's Global Environmental Outlook will be released tomorrow, and it lays out the pathways to transformation that could deliver higher GDP, fewer deaths, less hunger, less poverty, all through action on climate, on nature, and on pollution. This assembly can accelerate that transformation by leaning in to inclusive multilateralism. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, we have the right ideas on the table. Through the work of the open-ended CPR, the Committee of Permanent Representatives, 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions have been negotiated and passed on to UNEP 7 for further deliberation. Informal negotiations continued over the weekend, moving us closer. My thanks to the Chair and the Bureau of the Committee, and of course to the co-facilitators who worked tirelessly within the resolution clusters. Many of the draft resolutions strike at the heart of the environmental challenges facing our world. We have a draft on artificial intelligence, which could have great benefits for environmental action and wide-ranging negative impact in terms of water, energy, and resource uses. We have a draft on sustainable use of minerals and metals, which could be essential to the energy transition and to the development of many nations that hold such resources. We have drafts on strengthening the environmental dimensions on antimicrobial resistance, to the global hydrological cycle, on the deep sea, to the sound management of chemical and waste, to elevating the voices of youth and environmental governance, and so much more. And we have the right people right here. We have just under 6,000 registered participants from 170 member states, including 79 ministers and 35 vice ministers. And this past Friday, the Cities and Regions Summit brought together a crucial gathering of subnational actors who will be central to urban sustainability. We have diverse voices feeding through the Youth Environmental Assembly and major groups and stakeholders forum. The children and youth, farmers, indigenous people, business and industry, local communities, local authorities, non-governmental organizations, the scientific and technological community, women and workers and trade unions. This is a reminder that UNEA is more than resolutions and decisions. It's a place where the world comes together, where you gather outside the negotiation halls also to bring ideas, to exchange them amongst you, and to build new momentum for environmental action. Of course, this assembly must consider the context of UN80 initiative and its work streams, looking at efficiencies and improvements, the review of mandates, and possible structural changes and programmatic alignment opportunities. And in the context of the UN80 initiative, I'm very pleased that the second Multilateral Environmental Agreements Day on Wednesday will be a crucial contribution. We are seeking to promote coherence among the UNEA resolutions, but also amongst the decisions that are taken by the Multilateral Environmental Agreement governing bodies, be they hosted by UNEP or not, to strengthen the tapestry of global environmental governance, and ultimately to spark stronger, faster, and more joined-up action across the environmental challenges. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, I know that differences can sometimes be insurmountable, but we all live on the same planet, and we all face the same challenges. If my neighbor is suffering from climate change, so am I. If my ocean is empty of fish, so is my neighbor's. If my neighbor is breathing foul air, so am I. We are all interconnected on this planet, and we all want the same thing: a better future for ourselves and for our families. The foundation stones of such a future are a stable climate, a safe and clean, sustainable environment, and a pollution-free future. So I call on you once again to summon up that famous and indomitable Nairobi spirit, and let that guide you down from the ramparts of individual positions to meet on common ground. For only from there can you agree strong resolutions and decisions and deliver sustainable solutions for a resilient planet. Thank you.
I thank Madam Anderson for her statement, and I would like to thank her for all her dedicated efforts in cooperation with UNEP Secretariat, along with her deputy, Madam Miriam, in her excellent preparations for the 7th session of the Assembly. It is now my pleasure to invite the Director General of the United Nations Office at Nairobi, Ms. Zainab Hawa Bangura, to deliver her opening statement.
Your Excellency, Mr. Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amri, Chair of the Environmental Authority of Oman and President of UNEP 7. Your Excellency, Dr. Deborah Longo Barasa, Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry in Kenya. Chair of the CPR, Your Excellency, Mr. Sultan and cooperation on our shared environmental future. The city's vibrant energy and Kenya's steadfast partnership have shaped this space into a hub where ambition meets action. We're deeply grateful to the government and people of Kenya for their unwavering support and hospitality. Their commitment strengthens our collective resolve and enables the United Nations to serve as a true meeting place for the world. Behind the scenes, the United Nations office at Nairobi, UNON, remains the backbone of daily operations here at the Gigiri complex and in over 166 countries around the world, where UNON delivers seamless administrative and conference services. From ensuring the smooth running of meetings to advancing key modernization efforts, UNON dedicated staff work tirelessly to uphold the higher standards of service and efficiency. Our commitment, in collaboration with United Nations colleagues on the Gigiri complex, underpins every success we achieve here. And I extend my heartfelt appreciation to each member of our team who makes this assembly possible. In the forefront, UNON does not only talk environmental sustainability, but walks the talk. We are the first and only United Nations headquarters office to have successfully achieved and maintain ISO 14001 certification for environmental management systems. With multiple environmental initiatives that include our reforestation of the Gigiri complex, increased biodiversity, and a vision to be net zero by 2030, among others, we believe every little goes a long way to save our planet. As we look ahead to the discussions and decisions of this assembly, let us recall that the health, survival, and positive growth of our planet is deeply intertwined with peace, security, equality, justice, and prosperity for all. Today's challenges demand not only bold ambition, but also united action. The solutions forged in Nairobi will resonate far beyond these walls, shaping communities, economies, and ecosystems across the world. I thank all my United Nations colleagues, partners, and every delegate for your dedication and spirit of collaboration. Let us seize this moment to transform our shared ambition into tangible, measurable progress, so future generations may inherit a world that is greener, safer, healthier, and more just. A world where everyone is treated equally and with dignity and respect. A world where no one is left behind. Together, let us continue to nurture the spirit of global solidarity and define UNEP and drive forward the positive change our world so urgently needs. I wish you all very successful deliberations. Thank you. Asante Sana.
شكرا.
Thank you, Ms. Bangura. May I take this opportunity to sincerely thank the United Nations Office at Nairobi for the excellent cooperation and support extended for the organization of this session, including through the provision of conference services, security, facilities, logistics, and much more. It is now my honor to invite Her Excellency Deborah Molongo Barasa, Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry of Kenya, to deliver her statement.
Thank you. Your Excellency Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amri, President of the United Nations Environment Assembly and President of the Environment Authority of the Sultanate of Oman, Your Excellency Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, who has just joined us through video, His Excellency Mr. Sultan Hajiev, Chair, Ambassador, and Permanent Representative of Azerbaijan to UNEP, Your Excellency Elizabeth Mirema, Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, Your Excellency Inga Anderson, Executive Director of UNEP, Your Excellency Zainab Hawa Bangura, Director General of the United Nations Office at Nairobi, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is truly a great honor and a heartfelt privilege to join you all today at the opening of UNEP 7, right here in Nairobi, the vibrant city that has become a beacon for a shared environmental future. I bring warm greetings from His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, together with the government and the people of Kenya, along with a renewed commitment to the vital work of the United Nations Environment Programme and its member states in building a safer, healthier, and more resilient planet for everyone. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, is expected to deliver his national and welcome statement on the 11th December this year, a moment I eagerly look forward to. In the afternoon of the 11th, from 1:15 to 2:25 p.m., Kenya will be co-hosting a luncheon side event together with GGI at Mount Kilimanjaro room titled Bridging Divides, Building Solutions, Global Cooperation for a Circular Economy. This side event aims to accelerate global actions to end plastic pollution. Returning to Nairobi, the birthplace of the mandate, provides a strategic opportunity to reflect on the progress and identify pathways for collaborative solutions towards a circular economy. I welcome you all to the side event. That same evening, staying true to our cherished tradition, I will have the sincere honor of hosting you all at our country reception. It will be a wonderful occasion to share Kenya's very best. All delegates attending UNEA 7 are warmly invited. This is a highlight of the assembly. You truly won't want to miss this. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we are also deeply grateful to UNEP for providing Kenyan institutions with exhibition spaces here at the venue. These exhibitions will be open throughout UNEA 7, offering you a unique glimpse into Kenya's innovation, cultural diversity, and the strengths of our various sectors. I encourage you to take some time between your sessions to explore the exhibitions and engage with the ideas, technology, and partnership that Kenya proudly presents to the world. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this session, Advancing Sustainable Solutions for a Resilient Planet, speaks powerfully to the moment we find ourselves in. The time for small, cautious steps has passed. What we need now is bold, integrated, and inclusive action. As a resilient planet is much more than protecting ecosystems. It means using our resources widely, building just and inclusive societies, ensuring that economic growth respects the boundaries of our planet, and embracing innovations to foresee and prevent harm before it happens. The challenges we face are unique and deeply intertwined. Climate change, loss of biodiversity, land degradation, toxic pollution, unsustainable consumption and production, exacerbated by several factors, including but not limited to political instability. These crises cannot be tackled in isolation. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, this session of UNEA is also expected to consider and approve the medium-term strategy and program of work, a key document that will shape UNEP's strategic direction and collective environmental action for the years ahead. Kenya looks forward to constructively contributing to its finalization, ensuring that the MTP reflects ambition, science-based policy, equity, and opportunities for innovation, especially for developing countries. I am optimistic that this UNEA will culminate in a strong ministerial declaration. I trust that the resolution to be considered and adopted will effectively address the pressing global environmental challenges I have emphasized. I also look forward to the important decisions on setting the date for UNEA 8. This declaration and those decisions will be key to advancing our shared global environmental goals with clear commitments and actionable steps. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in line with the spirit of constructive multilateralism, Kenya is sponsoring 3 important resolutions and co-sponsoring 2 at this assembly, each responding to emerging global environmental challenges and reflecting areas where innovation, collaboration, and policy leadership can deliver meaningful impact. This assembly rightly focuses on 3 key imperatives. First, to spark sustainable solutions that bring multiple benefits, restoring ecosystem, supporting livelihoods, cutting emissions, and eliminating waste. From Kenya's rural heartlands to cities around the world, we must turn hopeful ideas into real change. Second, to strengthen resilience, not just to bounce back, but to transform, to move from vulnerabilities to empowerment, from reacting to damage to preventing and regenerating. Third, to champion inclusive environmental governance, making sure women and youth, indigenous people, local communities, and marginalized groups have a voice and real power. Our solutions must be fair, just, practical, and leave no one behind. Kenya pledges to stand firm in this effort. We will align our national development with the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, mobilize finance for nature-based and circular economy solutions, build strong institutions, promote sustainable lifestyle, and foster innovation and knowledge sharing that connects local action with global ambition. As we come together in the world's environmental home, a place where the gifts and vulnerabilities of nature are felt deeply, we offer not just our challenges, but also our solutions. Kenya is ready to partner with governments, civil society, the private sector, academia, and local actors, because today, partnership is not optional, it is absolutely essential. Kenya stands proud today as we reaffirm our commitment to global environmental stewardship and to the vision championed by the United Nations Environment Assembly. So in closing, let us resolve that UNEA 7 will not just talk about the future, it will help create it. Let us embrace the boldness, collaboration, and urgency this moment demands. Guided by science, grounded in fairness, let us forge a resilient planet for our generation and for those who will follow us. I thank you all. Welcome home. Karibuni nyumbani. Asante.
أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل لمعالي
I extend my gratitude to Her Excellency, the Secretary, for being here with us today. Your presence is a strong signal of Kenya's leadership on environmental issues and its steadfast support to UNEA and to UNEP. Before we listen to statements, additional statements, I would like to call the Assembly first to look into item 2 of the provisional agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda and the organization of work. I would like to bring your attention to the provisional agenda in document UNEP/EA.7/1 with the annotations provided on document UNEP/EA/7/1 add.1. The provisional agenda includes items that have been proposed by the Environment Assembly in its decision 6/7. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt the provisional agenda as contained in document UNEP/EA.7/1. I see no objections. It is so adopted. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Bureau of the Environment Assembly and the Bureau of the Committee of Permanent Representatives, which have contributed to the successful preparation of the present session. I wish to acknowledge in particular the able leadership of His Excellency, brother and dear friend, Mr. Sultan Hajiev, Chair of the Committee of Permanent Representatives and the Ambassador and Permanent Representatives of Azerbaijan to UNEP. I now wish to invite you to turn your attention to the organization of work as presented in the annotated agenda contained in document UNEP 1/7/1/add.1, and as outlined in the scenario note. In accordance with Rule 63 of the Rules of Procedure of the Environment Assembly, I would like to propose that the Assembly establish a committee of the whole open for the participation of states members of the United Nations, members of specialized agencies, including regional economic integration organizations, to assist the Assembly in the consideration of various agenda items and to finalize pending draft resolutions and decisions for adoption by the Assembly at its closing plenary meeting on Friday, December 12th. May I therefore take it that the Assembly wishes to establish a committee of the whole? Having seen no objection, it is so decided. At this stage, I would like to invite the Assembly to consider electing a chair and a rapporteur of the Committee of the Whole. For the position of the chair, the Bureau of the Assembly, with the support of the Bureau of the Committee of Permanent Representatives, has nominated Her Excellency Joel Clark, Rapporteur of UNEP and Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment, Climate Action, and Constituency Empowerment of St. Kitts and Nevis for the position of the chair. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to elect by acclamation Her Excellency Madam Joelle Clark of St. Kitts and Nevis as the chair of the Committee of the Whole? I see no objection. It is so decided. On behalf of the Assembly, I would like to congratulate Her Excellency Joelle Clark of St. Kitts and Nevis on her election as the chair of the Committee of the Whole for the 7th session of the Environment Assembly. The Bureau of the Assembly has also nominated Her Excellency Nino Tsanfili, Vice President of UNEP and First Deputy Minister of Environment Protection and Agriculture of Georgia for the position of the rapporteur with the support of the Bureau of the Committee of the Permanent Representatives. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to elect Her Excellency Nino Tandila-Shavili of Georgia by acclamation as the rapporteur of the Committee of the Whole? No objection. It is so decided. On behalf of the Assembly, I would like to congratulate Her Excellency Nino Tandila-Shavili of Georgia on her election as the rapporteur of the Committee of the Whole for the 7th session of the Environment Assembly. Thank you very much. I count on your full cooperation and support with the chair and the rapporteur of the Committee of the Whole so that they can effectively discharge their important functions. I wish to inform all delegates that the Committee of the Whole will start meeting here in Conference Room 2 immediately following the adjournment of this plenary meeting. I also wish to inform you that the chair of the Committee of the Whole will report to the Assembly at its closing plenary meeting to be held on Friday, December 12th. Allow me now to turn the attention of the Assembly to the allocation of items on its agenda in accordance with Rule 13 of the Rules of Procedure. I propose that the Assembly allocates agenda item 5 entitled international environmental policy and governance issues, as well as item 6 of the agenda entitled Program of Work and Budget and other administrative and budgetary matters. In addition to agenda item 11 entitled Provisional Agenda, Dates and Venue of the 8th Session of the Environment Assembly, and to refer this to the Committee of the Whole. These agenda items include, under their purview, pending proposals that may require dedicated attention. By allocating these items to the Committee of the Whole, we hope to finalize the discussion of these proposals in an expeditious manner for the Assembly's consideration. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to allocate agenda items 5, 6, and 11 to the Committee of the Whole? I see no objection. It is decided. In accordance with the established practice, the Committee of the Whole may also set up contact groups as appropriate. The Committee of the Whole will consist of an opening plenary held immediately following the adjournment of this meeting in this very room, and a second plenary meeting held in this room on Tuesday evening, as well as a closing plenary meeting also to be held in this room on Wednesday afternoon. In addition to all of that, the Committee of the Whole will hold contact groups meetings, and this will start this afternoon at 2 p.m. and these meetings will continue until Wednesday. Bearing in mind that the high-level segment of the Assembly will begin on Thursday, December 11th, I would like to emphasize that the Committee of the Whole will need to conclude its work by Wednesday, December 10th, and report on its work to the Assembly at its closing plenary to be held on Friday, December 12th. I would like now to turn to the organization of the meetings to be held on Wednesday, December 10th, which will be related to the item on cooperation with multilateral environmental agreements. The opening of the agenda item will be followed by two high-level dialogues from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 3 to 5 p.m. This will be followed by a concluding dialogue to be held from 5 to 6 p.m. The meetings will be held in Conference Room 1. As highlighted in the scenario note, may I take it that the Assembly agrees to hold the two high-level dialogues on the theme signed, sealed, delivered. This will push the implementation of MEAs forward through a whole of government and whole of society approaches from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. and on the theme keeping the promise, boosting SDGs implementation through MEAs from 3 to 4 p.m. Seeing no objections, it is so decided. I wish to inform delegations that at 2 p.m. today, Ms. Elizabeth Maroma Mrema, Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, and I will officially open the MEA's pavilion, which is located close to the Karibuni sign. Throughout the week of UNEA 7, the pavilion will host side events and exhibitions highlighting synergies, cooperation, and collaboration among multilateral environmental agreements. It is our pleasure to invite all delegates to attend the official opening and to engage at the MEA's pavilion activities throughout the week. I now would like to turn to the organization of the high-level segment, which will be held on December 11th and 12th. The high-level segment encompasses an opening plenary meeting, national statements, including statements by heads of state, vice presidents, and heads of government, 3 leadership dialogues, a multi-stakeholder dialogue, and a closing plenary meeting. I would like to remind delegations that there will be a cultural opening of the high-level segment on Thursday before the start of the plenary meeting. Therefore, delegations are kindly requested to be seated in Conference Room 2 by 9:30 a.m. on December 11th. As outlined in the scenario note, may I take it that the Assembly agrees to hold, first, a leadership dialogue on the theme, "An ounce of prevention beats a ton of cure. Why addressing environmental crises is essential for human health," to be held on Thursday, December 11th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Second, this will be followed by a multi-stakeholder dialogue on the topic "Resilience through Inclusive Partnerships, Catalyzing Solutions Across Sectors," to be held from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Third, 2 leadership dialogues to be held on Friday, December 12th on the theme "Round and Round, Why Circularity and Sustainability Are Critical to the Future of Global Industry," from 10 to 11:30 a.m. and on the theme "The Bottom Line, Why Tackling Environmental Degradation is Critical to the Future of the Global Financial System." This will be held from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Seeing no objections, it is so decided. Agenda items 12 to 16 will be considered at the closing plenary of the Assembly in the afternoon of Friday, December 12th. I would like now to propose to you that the Assembly decides on the time limits for statements as follows. Statements delivered on behalf of a group of states should be limited to 5 minutes. Statements delivered by individual delegations, including statements by observers, major groups, and stakeholders, should be limited to 3 minutes only. The time limit for statements in explanation of positions before action and after action on a proposal should be limited to 3 minutes. Delegations should exercise their right of reply at the end of the day whenever 2 or 3 meetings have been scheduled for that day and whenever such meetings are devoted to the consideration of the same item or before the conclusion of the consideration of a given item. The number of interventions in the exercise of the right of reply for any delegation at a given meeting should be limited to 2 per item. And the first intervention in the exercise of the right of reply for any delegation on any given item should be limited to 3 minutes. And the second intervention should be limited to 2 minutes. I hear no objection. It is so decided. Under the current agenda item on the organization of work, I would like to also invite the Assembly to take note of the following intergovernmental organizations that have been accredited to the Environment Assembly as pursuant to Rule 69 of its Rules of Procedures. First, Commission of the Convention for the Protection of the Marine Environment of the Northeast Atlantic, OSPAR Commission. Second, Consortium of International Agricultural Research Centers. Third, Permanent Secretariat of the Alpine Convention. And fourth, West African Development Bank. Having seen no objection, it is so decided. The list of accredited organizations is available on the Environmental Assembly website. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of Agenda Item 2. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, members of delegations, I invite the Assembly to resume its consideration of Agenda Item 1, entitled Opening of the Session. As recommended by the UNEA and CPR bureaus, we will now hear opening statements from the regional and political groups only. Given the time constraint, I urge delegations speaking on behalf of a group of states to please limit their statements to 5 minutes. I invite delegations to deliver the statements from their seats. Please press the microphone button so that you can be inscribed on the list. So it is just for, so the statements or the time for delivering statements will be given to representatives of groups, regional groups. I now give the floor to the representative of the European Union.
Mr. President of the Assembly, Madam Executive Director of UNEP, distinguished delegates. It is my privilege to speak on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. Serbia aligns itself with this statement. I would like to start by thanking you, Mr. President, and the Bureau of UNEA, the CPR, its chair, the Bureau, as well as the Executive Director and her team, for the unwavering commitment and efforts to deliver ambitious and meaningful UNEA 7 outcomes. Allow me also to thank the UN office at Nairobi and host country Kenya for the tremendous effort made in preparing for UNEA 7 and your generous hospitality, including on Jamhuri Day this Friday, your Republic Day. Since UNEA 6 last year, we have achieved significant progress in environmental multilateralism, including the establishment of a new intergovernmental science policy panel on chemicals, waste and pollution, and the High Seas Treaty reaching the required number of ratifications to enter into force. At the same time, nations continue to advance negotiations on an international legally binding agreement to end plastic pollution, an outcome that remains urgently needed. As we meet in Nairobi this week, delegates from all over the world share one expectation: that UNEA, the world's leading environmental authority, will take steps to address the global environmental crisis and challenges of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution for the benefit of people, planet, and prosperity. Now, well into the 2030 agenda, we see that many of the SDGs remain off track, especially those related to the state of our environment. Our common future is at stake. That's why we do need far more effective, inclusive, and sustainable multilateral action for the generations who rely on us today and tomorrow. Recent work by UNEP and partners underlines the scale of the task ahead. For example, the 2024 Protected Planet Report shows that only 17.6% of land and 8.4% of marine and coastal areas are under protection, while the Global Resource Outlook 2024 highlights that global resource extraction and consumption have continued to accelerate, emphasizing the urgent need for sustainable management of natural resources. Thanks to the third United Nations Oceans Conference, we now reach almost 10% of marine and coastal areas under protection, but we are still far from the objective to protect at least 30% of the planet by 2030, as set by the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. The entry into force of the so-called BBNJ agreement in January 2026 will be instrumental to implement this goal. It is one of the major breakthroughs of the multilateral environmental governance since the last UNEA. Let me say this clearly. Protecting the environment does not stand at odds with economic development. Quite the opposite. Recent years demonstrate that the green transition, which is in full swing in so many countries, can be a success story for both the environment and our economies. The EU and its member states stand firmly in defense of independent, credible science, which is an absolute prerequisite to any informed decision aimed at addressing climate change and environmental issues. In that regard, we welcome the launch of the flagship UNEP report, the GEO7, during this UNEA. The global science faces today enormous pressures and risks weakening of the science policy interface framework needed to strengthen environmental governance. Science is and must remain an essential instrument to guide global climate and environmental action. We underline the crucial role of youth, educators, and civil society in driving environmental action, innovation, and accountability. We welcome the contribution of youth-led initiatives and global youth platforms that promote climate and environmental awareness raising, leadership, entrepreneurship, and capacity building. Their engagement, including through the Youth Environmental Assembly, strengthens inclusive multilateralism and supports more effective implementation of UNEA decisions and the environmental dimensions for the 2030 agenda. EU and its member states would like to reiterate the importance of ensuring that major groups and stakeholders have the opportunity to speak, both in plenary and in the working groups. It remains essential that we hear the voices of civil society and all stakeholders, even when time is limited. UNEA 7 should reaffirm our shared commitment to inclusivity and meaningful participation for all. Ladies and gentlemen, inaugurating UNEA 7, the EU and its member states are encouraged by everyone's hard work and dedication. But we cannot ignore that so far no resolution and only one decision has been agreed at REF, and some resolutions have not gone through the full first reading yet. The sense of urgency and compromise needs to return to this room. You can count on our collective commitment to accelerate work towards resolving the outstanding issues for a successful and necessary outcome acceptable to all. We look forward to engaging with you, Mr. President, to achieve a ministerial declaration that matches the urgency of the environmental crisis we face. In doing so, UNEP can reinforce environmental ambition within the UN system, in line with contributing meaningfully to the implementation of the Pact for the Future and the UN 80 reform agenda, which aims to make the UN system more effective and coordinated with a focus on delivering tangible results at the country level. The EU, its member states and aligned country look forward to the adoption of meaningful resolutions, a medium-term strategy that will allow UNEP to do its work in the coming years, as well as a strong ministerial declaration. Only by addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution with determination can we protect our people, our human lives, strengthen our economies, increase prosperity, and safeguard our planet for the benefit of all. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The floor now is to Eritrea on behalf of the African states.
Your Excellency, Mr. Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amir, President of the Environmental Authority of the Sultanate of Oman and Chair of UNEP 7. Honorable Cabinet Secretary Madam Bazara, Cabinet Secretary of Environmental, Climate Change and Forestry of Kenya, DG of UNEP, Madam Bangura, ED of UNEP, Madam Inger Anderson, Chair of OCPR, my brother, Ambassador Sultan Hajiyef, Excellencies, Ministers, Heads of Delegation, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I am speaking on behalf of our Chair of Africa Group, Mozambique, who kindly asked me to read the statement of Africa Group. It is a great honor and privilege for me to deliver the statement on behalf of the Africa Group. At the outset, the Africa Group wishes to express its deep appreciation to the government and people of the Republic of Kenya for their warm welcome and generous hospitality since our arrival in this beautiful country. We also extend our sincere gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amir, President of the Environment Authority of Sultanate of Oman and Chair of UNEP 7, for your leadership in guiding this important session. Our appreciation also goes to the Executive Director of UNEP and her team for the outstanding work undertaken to support this preparation of this assembly. Mr. Chair, the African Group acknowledges the progress achieved during the OECPR 7 consultations. These discussions provided an essential platform for proponents and the member states to exchange views, clarify positions, and advance toward consensus on the draft resolutions before us. We thank all member states and the Secretariat for the preparation of the draft documents which aim to address urgent global environmental challenges. The spirit of collaboration demonstrated thus far reflects our shared commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation. However, while recognizing these positive developments, the African Group wishes to raise several concerns regarding the negotiation process that, in our view, require careful reflection. 1. Methodology of work. While we are steadily gaining ground, the pace of negotiations has still remained slow and uneven across most draft resolutions. We therefore urge the Chair to explore alternative, more streamlined modalities that can facilitate efficient, result-oriented negotiations. The African Group avails itself to support the Chair and are open for consultations on how best to achieve this. 2. acknowledgement of fundamental principles. The African Group considers it necessary to acknowledge and integrate fundamental principles that underpin multilateral environmental cooperation in outcomes of this session. The African Group considers the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, CBDR, and other principles of Rio Declaration that are fundamental in global environmental discourse. We also consider terminology and commitments already agreed by all member states within the UN General Assembly as credible and important references in our discussions. We urge the recollection of all member states on the standing of these principles and the agreed language from the General Assembly. 3. Secretariat proposed draft decisions. We remain hopeful and fully committed to engaging constructively and inclusively with all member states to ensure that the true Nairobi spirit is reflected in UNEP and especially in this session. The medium-term strategy, for instance, is highly significant for the development priorities of many developing countries. We therefore urge that the MTS be negotiated and finalized as soon as possible. 4. Strengthening the means of implementation, MOI. Effective implementation of resolutions by developing countries is only possible when supported by adequate finance, capacity building, and technology transfer. Without strong means of implementation, meaningful implementation cannot be achieved. This should be reflected explicitly and consistently across all draft resolutions. 5. Technology transfer. We consider that the use of the term, I quote, on mutually agreed terms, end quote, in provisions relating to technology transfer potentially weakens commitments already agreed under multilateral environmental agreements. Technology transfer must adhere to the obligations and terminology already established under this MEAs to guarantee the intended benefits to member states. 6. Citizen science. The African Group believes that scientific process must be grounded in professional expertise, and therefore we should apply caution in the use of reference to such citizen science. We do, however, support the use of traditional knowledge within the language and safeguards adopted under the Convention of Biological Diversity, CBD, and caution against fragmenting traditional knowledge into new unidentified, undefined categories. Mr. Chair,
Your Excellency already exceeded the time with more than 3 minutes. So
in the hope of the African Group that these concerns will be fully considered and adequately addressed during Union 7. If these concerns remain inadequately attended to, the outcomes of this assembly may fall short of effectively addressing global environmental challenges. The African Group remains timely committed to constructive engagement and working with all delegations in a spirit of cooperation. We seek balanced implementations and consensus-based outcomes that reflect the priorities and the circumstances of developing countries. We stand ready to work with all partners to strengthen global environmental governance while upholding the fundamental principles of international cooperation. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And since it's already adopted by the Assembly to given a 5-minute floor, so please, I'm calling upon all of Member States to keep their speech within the 5 minutes. Brazil, on behalf of BRICS.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to take the floor on behalf of BRICS, a group that is committed to upholding multilateralism and strengthening global governance and climate in the spirit of extensive consultations, joint contributions, and shared benefits. Together, BRICS countries account for approximately 45% of the world's population and nearly 25% of Earth's land surface, and host a substantial share of planet's biodiversity, encompassing about 43% of global forest cover, more than 30% of the world's protected areas, and over 22% of its coastline. As we start our deliberation here at UNEA 7, the BRICS countries take this opportunity to reaffirm our steadfast commitment to scale up urgent action to address the challenges posed by climate change, biodiversity loss, desertification, land degradation, drought, sand and dust storms, pollution, among others. The BRICS countries reaffirm the importance of strengthening UNEP under the oversight of UNEA and the CPR as its governing bodies. They stress that UNEP must act strictly within its mandate, including in the implementation of its medium-term strategy and program of work and budget, and in its engagement with other UN entities and multilateral bodies. We also underscore that certain terms and definitions in the draft MTS 2026-29 and Program of Work 2026-27 are not intergovernmentally agreed and should not prejudge negotiations, agreements, or MEA processes. We stress the importance of enhancing cooperation and synergies among related multilateral conventions, organizations, and instruments, including the 3 Rio Conventions, in a manner respectful of their respective mandates and avoiding double counting and duplication of efforts with a view to identify common challenges, opportunities, and solutions for achieving global objectives. At the same time, we recall that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and indispensable requirement for sustainable development. Here in Nairobi, we must be guided by the same spirit of cooperation and solidarity that prevailed in 1992 when we adopted the Rio Declaration, one of the cornerstones of international environmental cooperation. We underscore the continued centrality of the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, as well as the importance of supporting and accelerating the development and transfer of technology as a critical enabler of climate action. In this sense, we urge developed countries to ensure the provision of adequate, effective, predictable, timely, and accessible financial resources to developing countries, as well as to improve capacity building, development, and transfer of technology to developing countries. We also emphasize the importance of exploring and enhancing payments for ecosystem services at all levels, in alignment with multilateral commitments, national policies, priorities, including by mobilizing diverse and sustainable sources of finance. In this regard, we welcome the recent launch of the Tropical Forest Forever facility during the Berlin Climate Summit and recognize it as an innovative mechanism designed to mobilize long-term, results-based financing for tropical forest conservation. The BRICS countries underscore that the terminology indigenous peoples and local communities is agreed language in the Convention on Biological Diversity, and we express our concern with attempts to draw artificial distinctions between the two, which could create a loophole to circumvent the obligation of fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from the use of their knowledge. Our group also takes this opportunity to recall that all measures taken to tackle climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, including unilateral ones, must be designed, adopted, and implemented in conformity with the principles and provision of relevant multilateral environmental and trade-related agreements, and must not constitute a means of arbitrary or unjustifiable discrimination or distinguished restriction on international trade. Thank you.
Thank you, our colleague from Brazil. The floor now is to Colombia on behalf of the group of Latin American and Caribbean states.
Thank you, Mr. President. for giving me the floor. Good morning. Madam Executive Director, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and colleagues. On behalf of the Group of Latin American and the Caribbean, Colombia is honored to deliver this statement at the 7th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly, UNEA 7. First of all, GRULAC thanks the government of Kenya for its hospitality, showcasing Nairobi as the global capital of environmental multilateralism again. The group expresses its sincere gratitude to the chair of the CPR, Ambassador of Azerbaijan, to the executive director, and to the dedicated staff of the UNEP Secretariat for their outstanding efforts in organizing this assembly, which constitute the most important international forum for member states to deliberate on the global environmental agenda for the upcoming years. In the same spirit, GRULAC extends its appreciation to those member states that have provided financial contributions to support the participation of delegates from developing countries, as well to ensure the successful convening of UNEA 7. These efforts are essential for securing an inclusive and geographically representative assembly, which is vital to the legitimacy, credibility, and effectiveness of UNEA. This assembly builds upon and concludes the intense work undertaken throughout the year in the preparation of UNEP's medium-term strategy for 2026 to 2029 and its program of work for 2026-2027. It also provides a critical space for the discussion and refinement of the draft resolutions proposed by member states, the implementation of which will shape UNEP's work in the years to come. GRULAC reaffirms its willingness to contribute constructively and respectfully to this important process, while underscoring the need for ambitious and effective outcomes as we strive towards international agreed commitments on sustainable development, gender equality, and human rights, among others. The countries of our region have been experiencing more severe impacts from biodiversity loss, climate change effects, pollution, desertification, land degradation, drought, and water stress. In order to address this crisis, as UNEA 7, we're required to take decisions that promote multi-level and multi-sector environmental governance as the foundation for effective, inclusive, and sustainable development-oriented action, taking into account the particular needs and circumstances of small island developing states. And in doing so, we must ensure meaningful participation of all sectors of society, including the private sector, the scientific community, academia, indigenous people and local communities, people of African descent, and civil society. GRULAC would also like to reiterate the importance for our region, as highlighted in the Lima Declaration of the Forum of Ministers of the Environment of Latin America and the Caribbean, of ensuring that the principle of common but differentiating responsibilities, a cornerstone of multilateralism since 1992 Rio de Janeiro Conference, is duly reflected in multilateral environmental processes. Mr. President, in the coming negotiations of this week, GRULAC wants to reinforce our commitment of the spirit of Nairobi as a crucial vision that can allow us to reach consensus. On organization of work, Mr. President, GRULAC reiterates our request that no more than 2 negotiation or consultation sessions be scheduled in parallel at any given time, as small delegations are unable to participate effectively in more than 2 simultaneous meetings. Mr. President, GRULAC reiterates our firm belief in multilateralism as the most effective and legitimate pathway for advancing sustainable solutions for a resilient planet. Thank you. Gracias. Obrigado.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The floor now is to Fiji on behalf of the Pacific Small Islands Developing States.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I have the honor of delivering this statement on behalf of 10 Pacific Small Island developing states that are present here at UNEP 7. We come from nations that are small in land but vast in ocean, from peoples whose histories, cultures, and economies are written into the Pacific itself. For us, the theme of UNEP 7 is not just an abstract slogan, it is a daily test whether the multilateralism can still deliver justice and survival for the most vulnerable. At this assembly, Fiji and Vanuatu are leading 2 resolutions that test our resilience. We will not go into technical details here, but whatever matters is what they represent. Mr. President, our leadership did not emerge in isolation. Just a few months ago, the Pacific hosted for the very first time the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum of Ministers and Environment Authorities, AP6 in Nadi, Fiji, which you also had the opportunity to attend. Yourself heard the stories of our people and witnessed our cultures. Most importantly, you heard the message of our leaders that were not merely an affected region, but a region that is ready to set the pace for the world. Excellencies, the Pacific is facing the triple planetary crisis in real time. Climate change is reshaping our coastlines. Ocean warming and acidification are degrading our fisheries and coral systems. Plastic solutions is entering our food chains and communities. Biodiversity loss is eroding the resilience that has sustained our island societies for generations. But let me be absolutely clear, the Pacific refuses to be defined by vulnerabilities alone. Across the 10 members of the PCH, we are implementing transformative changes despite the facing fiscal constraints, severe climate impacts, and escalating environment pressures. This is why UNEP 7 matters. This assembly cannot be a meeting of comforting phrases. It must be a place where decisions reflect the true scale of the crisis and where our ambition is backed by meaningful support. PCH therefore emphasizes 3 expectations from UNEP 7. First, that the ambition must be matched with resourcing. For islands on the front line, new mandates without finance, technology transfer, and implementation support do not change the lived reality of our communities. Second, we safeguard the integrity of science and multilateralism. We cannot allow carefully negotiate language across multilateral system to be worked to weaken or reopen. Third, the oceans and the people who depend on them take their rightful place in the center of global environmental governance. For PCH, the ocean is not a sector, it is our identity, our economy, and our most important climate regulator. Mr. President, the Pacific has demonstrated that we are constructive partners and advocates of fairness and ambition, but we are also realists. We know exactly what is at stake. Therefore, on behalf of the 14 Pacific Island developing states, I reaffirm the following. We support the outcomes that raise ambition and protect environment integrity. We will resist efforts that weaken, delay, and shift burdens onto those least responsible, and we will continue to use our collective voice to voice that the realities of the frontline communities are never sidelined. Finally, we extend our deep appreciation to the government and the people of Kenya for their warm hospitality and the UNEP for their dedicated efforts in guiding us through this assembly. Mr. President, sir, PCH, we like to leave everyone with one clear message. If multilateralism is to prove its worth, it must deliver first for those who have the most to lose. Our islands, our people, and our shared blue continent depend on it. And I thank you, Mr. President, sir.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm thanking you also for the hospitality you provide for the Asian Pacific Geopolitical Forum I joined. So, بذلك نكون قد
The Assembly has thus concluding its consideration of the representatives of the groups. By this, we will have concluded item 1 of the agenda. At this stage, I invite the Assembly to consider agenda item 7, which is entitled Stakeholder Engagement. So so that we can hear opening statements that will be delivered by the major groups and stakeholders. And bearing in mind that the Bureau adopted in its meeting a decision to give the floor to one representative of the major groups on behalf of all major groups. And bearing in mind that since yesterday they asked to deliver individual statements justifying that it is according to our past procedure of the past General Assembly that stakeholder as well as major groups representatives be given the floor individually. Therefore, I personally asked the Assembly to show generosity and understanding to allow major groups to make individual statements. Having heard no objection, I would like to thank the Assembly for having agreed to this. I would like to ask each of the 9 major groups to deliver their statements, limiting their time to 2 minutes, given the time constraint. So I call upon the representatives of the 9 major groups, when given the floor, to limit their statements to 2 minutes only. First, I will give the floor to Mr. John Lindberg from the major group on behalf of the business and industry.
Excellencies, colleagues and friends, I'm delivering this statement on behalf of the Business and Industry Major Group, representing businesses of all sizes and sectors from across all corners of the world. True multilateralism is the art of partnerships and co-creation where all stake and rights holders, including the major groups, create common solutions for common problems. We all have a legitimate role to play, and these spaces must be respected. Many of us are fellow participants in the many multilateral processes that take place concurrently. And in the business and industry community, we recognize that we talk often about the same issues to the same people, only in new locations. Far too much time is spent trying to reinvent the wheel, or trying to expand one's influence, or trying to impose one-size-fits-all solutions. We need to ensure that the scarce resources of the United Nations are deployed in the most cost-effective and high-impact way possible. We also strongly urge Member States to refrain from expanding mandates or work streams where no means of implementation have been identified. And this year's OECPR has been particularly challenging, with very little substantive progress across many of the resolutions. The Business and Industry Major Group therefore calls upon Member States to seize the precious little time that is left and deliver a streamlined set of ambitious and science-based resolutions. Mr. President, businesses around the world are the engines of innovations and agents of real change, ranging from the local to the truly global. Let's stop talking about the same issues and let's see meaningful action, and you will find the private sector your staunchest ally. Thank you.
شكرا لممثل مجموعة والصناعية.
I thank the representative of Business and Industry Major Group, and I would like to give the floor now to the representative of Children and Youth Major Group.
Thank you, Excellency, for the floor. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, my name is Natalia Mrówczyńska, speaking on behalf of the Children and Youth Major Group. The Youth Environment Assembly, held before OECPR, mobilized more than 1,000 young people here at UNON. Yesterday, during the high-level closing session, we presented the Global Youth Declaration on the Environment, clearly articulating the priorities of young people globally for environmental action. Today, we wish to share 3 key messages for Member States. First, despite geopolitical headwinds, Over the last week, we have seen continued collaboration and compromise. We urge delegations to continue in this spirit and take this opportunity to reaffirm that multilateralism can still deliver meaningful outcomes. Second, the resolutions under discussion have real potential to strengthen global environmental governance. We urge Member States to take this opportunity to design a more coherent, transparent, and inclusive system that delivers truly systemic solutions to today's crises. In this regard, we welcome progress by Member States on the Children and Youth Resolution tabled by Sri Lanka. Lastly, we must work collaboratively to safeguard the space for civil society and stakeholders. We call on contact group co-chairs to allow sufficient space for major group interventions and encourage Member States to continue engaging civil society in a constructive dialogue. This is a critical part of a successful UNEA. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the window for action is narrowing rapidly. The Children and Youth Major Group call on Member States to fulfill your commitment to current and future generations. The world is watching. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the major group of children and youth for their kind words, and I thank the groups for respecting their limited time. I give now the floor to the farmers major group.
Thank you, sir. I am Wali Haider speaking on behalf of the farmer major group. I speak not only as a farmer, but as someone whose life is directly shaped by decisions this assembly makes. I would like to start with saying that we must confront the shrinking spaces for major groups from a full speaking slot to barely 2 minutes to each major groups. The farmer major group will not accept a precedence where those who feed the world are reduced to silence while decisions about our lives are made without us. For farmers, healthy soil, clean water, stable climates, and accountable governance are not inspirations. For us, they determine whether we can feed our families or see our livelihood collapse. The resolution before UNEA 7 on nature, climate resilience, water cycles, climate and pollution, antimicrobial resistance, and environmental governance directly shape our harvest and health and our future. As you negotiate responses to ecosystem loss and intensification climate disruption, we urge you to place peasant, smallholder, and farmers at the center. Agroecology, soil restoration, seed sovereignty, equitable water system, and community-led action on invisible species are not supplementary. They are among the most effective climate and biodiversity solutions available. We as farmer and peasant feed the entire world and steward biodiversity every day. A resilient planet is impossible without resilient farmers. UNEA 7 must deliver decisions rooted in justice, equity, and lived realities, not abstractions. I thank you, sir.
I thank the representative of Farmers Major Group. I now give the floor to the representative of Indigenous People Major Group.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. My name is Chananin from Ingiwa Territory in Mexico. We, indigenous peoples, the environmental defenders of vast key ecosystems around the world, are marginalized, criminalized, and killed for defending our territories from the very system responsible for the environmental crisis. We denounce that these negotiation rooms are failing us and the world by continuing to enable mechanisms that are favoring that colonial and extractivist system that sees people and nature as a resource that can be exploited, violated, and sold for profit. This process continues to lower the bar on well-established international law that protects the rights of indigenous peoples. We demand that our rights as indigenous peoples, including our fundamental rights to self-determination and to free, prior, and informed consent, be upheld in all UNEA 7 processes and decisions consistent with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It is essential that indigenous peoples and our knowledge systems, sciences, and practices are leading in all decisions affecting our ancestral territories, and that environment defenders are protected. We are rights holders, not stakeholders, and must not be conflated with civil society groups. UNEP must fully support participation of indigenous peoples, women, LGBTQ+, children and youth, farmers, and persons with disabilities. The decisions made here will impact generations to come, and you must choose to protect the collective health of our people and planet over corporate interest and profit. We acknowledge those member states that champion our rights and join our fight to protect the Earth and its peoples. Finally, as protectors of the life that remains on Earth and as our right to self-determination affirms, in any decision affecting our lands, bodies, and environment, we must be supported to lead in determining and implementing solutions to environmental challenges to end the pollution and exploitation of the Earth once and for all. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Indigenous People Major Group. I now give the floor to the representative of local authorities. Representative.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, so on behalf of the Local Authorities Major Group, true multilateralism is the art of partnerships and co-creation where all stakeholders and right holders, including major groups, create common solutions for common problems. We all have a legitimate role to play, and these spaces must be respected. Friday's Cities and Regions Summit demonstrated something unmistakable. Around the world, cities, regions, and local governments are not only living the triple planetary crisis, they are also driving the solutions every day. We will hear more about the summit from the Mayor of Adu City shortly. Allow me to share the 4 core messages that our constituency brings to UNEP 7. First, we urge member states to institutionalize multi-level environmental governance. Implementation is strongest when all levels of government design, deliver, and monitor commitments together. As our recommendations underline, multi-level governance in all phases from design to implementation to monitoring must also be reflected in UNEA resolution clusters, including these addressing MEAs, which in order to succeed need to include the local and regional level. We call for stronger recognition of subnational diplomacy. Cities and regions can accelerate implementation of multilateral environmental agreements and connect global goals with territorial realities with sovereign systems. Second, we call for a reform of the global financial architecture to localize environmental action. This means long-term, predictable, and equitable financing, direct access for cities and regions to global funds and markets. Third, we must integrate climate, nature, environment, and people through place-based action. Our territories show every day that environmental justice and social inclusion are inseparable. Fourth, UNEA 7 must advance a people-centered and just transition. Excellencies, these 4 priorities are not abstract commitments. They emerge from real communities, from territories that are innovating every day. Our message is clear. UNEA 7 must be a turning point from commitment to capability, from fragmentation to cooperation, and from pilot projects to systemic transformation. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of local governments. I now give the floor to the representative of non-governmental major groups.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, ladies, gentlemen, and all gentle persons. I represent CORE, and I have the honor to address you on behalf of the NGO Major Group to deliver this abbreviated oral statement. Our full statement will be available online. True multilateralism is the art of partnerships and co-creation, where all stakeholders and rights holders, including major groups, create common solutions for common problems. We have a legitimate role to play, and these spaces must be respected. As leaders, as spokespersons, and as humans, we need to recognize the fundamental rights of nature as a primary underlying principle of environmental law, and this should inform all our deliberations and decisions. We call on states to support the urgent need for the international recognition of ecocide as a crime to safeguard ecosystems, communities, economies, and future generations. We strongly support the need for the environmentally sustainable management of minerals and metals. Mineral demand around the world is increasing exponentially, and environmental costs, human rights violations, and geopolitical contentions increase with that demand. We call for peace and for an end to armed conflict. We emphasize that environmental degradation is exacerbated by militarization, armed conflict, and occupation. Peace and justice are prerequisites for sustainable development. We urge states to support a moratorium on deep seabed mining to allow more time for scientific research to explore the ability or inability of mining without causing harm to ocean ecosystems. We must embrace comprehensive conflict of interest policies in all our efforts. We can no longer put profit before planet, and we can no longer put profit before people. The health of our people and planet, the dignity of our communities, and the prospects for peace are inseparable. The decisions made here must rise to the scale of the challenges before us. Let us move forward with clarity, courage, and collective resolve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I thank the representative of the non-governmental major groups. I now give the floor to the representative of scientific and technological major group.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. My name is Dr. Camilla Alexander-White, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Scientific and Technological Communities Major Group. True multilateralism is the art of partnerships and co-creation, where all stakeholders and rights holders, including the major groups, create common solutions for common problems. We all have a legitimate role to play, and these spaces must be respected. Many scientists are glad not to be in your shoes. We recognise that you have a very difficult job to do in very challenging geopolitical times, and we want to support you to achieve success at this UNEA 7. As scientists with in-depth expertise, experience and knowledge, we will always find ways of sharing our ideas and insights through papers, webinars, reports, social media, policy briefs, and these lead to constructive conversations with many of you in the margins. The planet is on the verge of a triple planetary crisis, a conclusion that is based on sound and credible scientific evidence and independent advice from many thousands of scientists around the world and key independent panels. There is an urgent need for action, and we hope Member States take the opportunity for action by ending this week with a set of meaningful UNEA resolutions. On our part, to be effective, scientists must not only explain the problems that exist, but also seek to innovate and propose ethical, evidence-based and realistic solutions rooted in the best available independent and robust science, and communicate science and technological progress in ways that are context-specific. The world is beginning an unprecedented period of rapid and transformative technological change. Progress must be environmentally sound and ecologically sensitive. The embedding of artificial intelligence in society, particularly generative AI, is touching on all our lives and running way ahead of good governance. Citizen science also has an important contribution to make, as mobile technologies have, in effect, provided every individual with the capacity to monitor their local environment. We've observed this last week that many member states are not supportive of citizen science. The field will grow rapidly, and our concern is that some governments will be left behind. That concludes our statement, and thank you for giving me the floor.
I thank the representative of Technological and Scientific Major Group. I now give the floor to the representative of Women Major Group.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. My name is Teresia Gitao, speaking on behalf of the Women's Major Group. We are concerned about the shrinking space for stakeholder engagement within UNEP. We call on all member states and contact group co-chairs to allow sufficient space for major group interventions and encourage member states to continue engaging civil society in a constructive dialogue. As well, we note with concern the increasing absence of language agreed upon in SDG 5 on gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. We demand negotiators to include this language in all of the UNEA 7 resolutions. The Women's Major Group firmly rejects any allegation that financing gender equality takes away from environmental action. Women's health and planetary health are inseparable. We stand at the front line of environmental change, consequences of war, and carry the weight of our communities, the wisdom of our tradition, and the urgency of our futures. We demand not only the seat at the table, but the power to shape the decisions that impact our bodies, our lands, and our lives. We call on all member states to uphold the rights of half of humanity, because once women's health is compromised, it compromises not only the well-being, but the existence of the future generations. We urge you to take your responsibilities and ensure transparent and accountable and global environmental governance. Our first women environmentalists.
Distinguished delegates, my name is Rebecca Okello. I speak on behalf of Workers and Trade Unions Major Group, representing workers in all regions and sectors in both formal and informal economy. We are very concerned by the shrinking space of stakeholder engagement within the UNEP. We call on all major states and contact group co-chairs to allow sufficient space for major groups' intervention. This is crucial for the success of this project. UNEP 7 calls on the world to deliver sustainable solutions for a resilient planet, and workers must be recognized as essential partners in addressing the triple climatic crisis. For workers, climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are lived realities. Heat stress is costing life, coral bleaching and ocean degradation are destroying livelihoods. Too many workers are daily exposed to hazardous chemicals. The triple climatic crisis is not only an environmental emergency, it's also a labor and social justice emergency. After 1 week of negotiation, we see that workers' fundamental rights, decent work, occupational safety and health are completely absent. We regret this profoundly and hope you can put this right this week. Environmental policies cannot be treated as technical exercise, disconnecting from people. It must be grounded on social dialogue, collective bargaining, and investment in green jobs and skills. A resilient planet depends on healthy, safe, and empowered workers that have their fundamental rights protected. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Workers and Trade Unions Major Group. I now call on Ms. Shinki Bellino to deliver a joint statement on behalf of the regional facilitators of the major groups and stakeholders.
Mr. President, this UNEA 7 must be remembered as the moment we empowered every community to build a safe, healthy, and resilient future. This assembly must reaffirm that meaningful engagement of major groups and stakeholders and the broader civil society is essential to strengthening environmental governance. The theme of UNEA 7, Advancing Sustainable Solutions for a Resilient Planet, reminds us that the resilience depends on empowered communities, healthy ecosystems, and strong science-based environmental governance. Armed conflicts, mass displacement, destructive and unsustainable extraction, and shrinking civic space further intensify these vulnerabilities. Despite this intersecting crisis, civil society continues to show courage and leadership, protecting nature and advancing peace and driving community-led solutions. We urge member states to match this determination with decisive action across 7 priority areas. First, protect civic space and environmental defenders by fully implementing UNEP's Environmental Defenders Policy, safeguarding rights to information, participation in justice, and embedding meaningful, timely, and inclusive civil society engagement across the policy cycle. Second, recognize and address environmental harm linked to armed conflicts. Strengthen monitoring and reporting and integrate environmental restoration into peace-building, humanitarian response, and long-term recovery efforts. Third, accelerate biodiversity protection with fast-track action plans, predictable finance, and safeguarding of critical ecosystems, including forests, coral reefs, and wetlands, and the vital services they provide. Fourth, deliver decisive action on pollution, adopt Global Plastics Treaty covering the full life cycle of plastics, strengthen measures on hazardous chemicals and waste, and enable a fully funded, independent, intergovernmental science policy panel on chemicals, waste, and pollution. Fifth, advance climate resilience and adaptation, expand early warning systems, and shift away from high-risk technologies, including geoengineering and destructive deep-sea mining, towards right-based, community-driven, science-informed solutions. Six, transform environmental finance and governance to ensure accessible finance, transparent data, responsible funding aligned with polluters pays, green jobs, and just transitions. Finally, ensure responsible governance of technology and innovation. AI, data systems, and circular economy technologies must follow ethical, precautionary, and community-centered principles, uphold data sovereignty, and reduce inequalities and reject false solutions. Effective responses must be grounded in justice, science, and diverse knowledge systems, including those of indigenous peoples, women, youth, local communities, farmers, and citizen scientists. Excellencies, the health of our planet and the peace of our societies are inseparable. Civil society stands ready as your equal partner for transformative change. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the regional facilitators of major groups and stakeholders. Last but not least, I would like to call Mr. Ali Nizar, Mayor of Adu City from the Maldives and the rapporteur of the UNEP 7 Cities and Regions Summit, to briefly share the key messages from the summit.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, a very good morning to you all. It is my honor to report back to the outcome of the UNEP 7 Cities and Regions Summit held last Friday here in Nairobi. In an open and constructive dialogue with member states, representatives of local and regional governments and experts discuss issues that affect all levels of government, including sustainable resources management, green finance, climate mitigation, and adaptation. Participants agree that the whole of government approach supported by a strong multilateral and multi-level framework is essential to address the triple planetary crisis. Throughout the summit, we share challenges and solutions from the ground, showing that local leadership is one of the most powerful levers to the advanced global resilience. As the mayor of a city in a small island state, vulnerable for any change on climate, I cannot overstate the urgency to accelerate action. The world is interconnected, and every life or dollar lost from climate impacts in any locality, ultimately impacts the world. The summit's main takeaway is clear. Cannot overstate the urgency to accelerate action. The world is interconnected, and every life or dollar lost from climate impacts in any locality, ultimately impacts the world. The summit's main takeaway is clear. Strengthening climate its unique nature and the need for its protection. Second, multi-level governance is essential. Recognizing local and regional governments within the international and local climate, land, and biodiversity frameworks and ensuring their participation strengthens implementation. Rio Convention are citing cities and regions as key actors. We also have COP30 Belém policy packages and other providing cities and regions with the right tools, data, and support to turn their ambitions into action. Third, access to local finance is the key in unlocking action. Cities face a mismatch between responsibilities and physical space. Funding streams must be integrated, climate, land, biodiversity, resilience, investment in green infrastructure, transport, climate resilience, urban development are not costs. They are investment in health, safety, and prosperity. Excellencies, the leaders who spoke in the summit, from Nouakchott to Caledonia, from Yaoundé to Shanghai, are cutting emissions, improving air quality, and restoring ecosystems. Their message to the UNEA is simple: advancing sustainable solutions from the territories for a resilient planet begins with enabling those closest to the communities. Would like to extend my sincere appreciation for UNEA for giving me the opportunity. Thanks for the floor, Mr. President. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا.
Thank you, Mr. Ali Nazar. We wholeheartedly appreciate the contribution of major groups and stakeholders in the work of the UNEP governing bodies, and we look forward to continue the engagement with you to effectively deliver on our mandates in support of sustainable development. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of Agenda Item 7. I now invite the Assembly to consider Agenda Item 3, entitled Credentials of Representatives. In consultation with the Bureau of the Assembly, it is recommended that we defer the consideration of this item to the plenary meeting to be held on Thursday afternoon, December 11th, to allow sufficient time for the Bureau to examine the credentials of representatives and to submit its report to the Assembly for adoption. I see no objection. It is so decided. For those delegations that have not yet done so, to please submit their credentials at the Badging Center until close of business tomorrow, Tuesday, December 9th. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of Agenda Item 3. I wish now to invite the Assembly to consider Agenda Item 4, entitled Report of the Committee of Permanent Representatives. May I also kindly invite my dear colleague and friend, His Excellency, Mr. Sultan Hajiev, Chair of the Committee of Permanent Representatives, and Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Azerbaijan to UNEP, to kindly present the report of the committee focusing on the key outcomes of the 7th session of the Open-Ended Committee of Permanent Representatives, which concluded its work last Friday.
Good morning. Excellency President of the Assembly, my dear friend, Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amri, Madam Director of UNON Bangura, Madam Executive Director, Deputy Executive Director, Cabinet Secretary Wazirim Heshimiva, she left us, but it's my pleasure to address Excellencies, distinguished delegates, wishing them good morning. Let me underline, it's my privilege and pleasure to address you all and see you all. I would like to present report of the work on the Committee of Permanent Representatives, specifically on the outcomes of the 7th session of the open-ended CPR or OECPR, which was convened from 1st to 5th December 2025 here in Nairobi. The session focused under Agenda Item 6 to the critical task of preparations of decisions and outcomes of the 7th session of UNEA Assembly and considered 15 draft resolutions and 3 draft decisions. I'm pleased to inform the Assembly that the committee transmitted the draft decision entitled Management of Trust Funds and Earmark Contributions, which is issued as UNEP EA7L2 to the Environment Assembly for its adoption. This achievement is a testament of robust preparations during the intersessional period. I wish to express my deep appreciation for the efforts to my fellow CPR Bureau members throughout the intersessional period and last week. Furthermore, I would like to extend particular gratitude to the team of dedicated co-facilitators who worked under complex and demanding circumstances. Let me say at times they were nothing less than exacting, taking forward negotiations with admirable patience and focus. At the closing on Friday evening, the open-ended CPR decided to transmit the following 15 resolutions and 2 draft decisions to UNEP for its further consideration. I'm going to go through the list. Please bear with me. It's going to be a long one. L3 is a draft decision on provisional agenda dates and venue of UNEP 8. L4 is a draft decision on medium-term strategy 26-29 and program of work and budget for the biennium 26-27. L5 draft resolution on accelerating global action to promote the climate resilience of coral reefs. L6 draft resolution on karst ecosystem for global water biodiversity, climate resilience and economic development. L7 is draft resolution on preservation of glaciers and the broader cryosphere. L8 draft resolution on active protection of deep sea ecosystems. L9 draft resolution on enhancing the meaningful participation of children and youth in environmental governance. L10 on promoting sustainable solutions for sport for a resilient planet. L11 is on environmental dimensions of antimicrobial resistance. L12 sound management of chemicals and waste. L13 strengthening global response on the management of fires. L14 on environment sustainability of artificial intelligence system. L15 strengthening global response on the massive influx of sargassum seaweed blooms. L16 enhancing international response to address crimes that affect environment. L17 advancing options for international instruments on the environmentally sound management of minerals and metals and guidance for mineral resources circularity. L18 a strengthening of the role of the United Nations Environment Programme headquarters in Nairobi to address environmental challenges and enhance multilateral cooperation to address effective multilateral governance. Last one, L20, maximizing existing resources through enhanced coherence and synergies in multilateral environmental agreements and implementation. The committee also decided to transmit the non-papers which streamlined preambular paragraphs of the draft resolutions to the Assembly, given the insufficient time for consultations in the working groups, and the non-papers will be used as a basis for negotiations concerning such paragraphs at UNEP, on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. The committee further decided that the non-paper of the operative paragraph 3 and 4 of the draft resolution entitled Strengthening Global Response on the Massive Influx of Sargassum Seaweed Blooms, discussed in the informal consultation held on 5th of December, be transmitted to UNEP to be used as a basis for negotiations on these 2 operative paragraphs, on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. The committee decided that the non-paper on the operative paragraphs of the draft resolutions advancing options for international instruments on environmentally sound management for minerals and metals and guidance for mineral resources circularity be availed and transmitted ahead of the start of UNEP and used as basis for negotiations on the operative paragraphs, on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. I'm pleased to report that further progress was achieved on Saturday during informal consultations convened under the able leadership of co-facilitators. The outcomes of these informal consultations have been made available on e-proposal module in the form of non-papers. This is in addition to L versions of the drafts, which have been transmitted to UNEP and which I've just read out. Further to the decision of the open-ended CPR at its closely plenary held on Friday, 5th December, I'm pleased to transmit to UNEP in the form of non-papers the outcomes of the informal consultations held on Saturday to enable Committee of the Whole to use them as a basis for negotiations within the respective contact groups. I hope to see a significant number of drafts agreed at the closing plenary of Assembly, and I would like to recognize important leadership of the President of UNEP and thank you, Excellency, and your team for the outstanding work and commitment in delivering ambitious and impactful UNEP. Let me also mention, as Chair of CPR, but also representative of the country which hosted COP29 and will be hosting World Urban Forum next year, where environment agenda will be high. This is some things that I've seen, this is some things that I've observed during negotiation process. it's really crucial for us to work together. It's also important for us to walk together. During one of the OECPR sessions here last week, I've invoked Swahili wisdom, which basically refers to the fact that if someone wants to go fast, he can go alone. If someone wants to go far, he needs to walk together. Let me emphasize once again, we need to work together, we need to walk together if we want to arrive at something at the end of this week in Nairobi. I would like to express my appreciation for the dedicated commitment and hard work of the CPR members and their teams for commitment and guidance, and a special word goes to my team as well. I also would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation and gratitude to co-facilitators. Again, only those who witness the work that they've been undertaking can truly appreciate the complexities that they've been facing, but also the perseverance and the tact that they have been managing this task with. I would like to mention that the report of the open-ended CPR is available on UNEP website as UNEP OECPR 7/2, as well as a note by the Secretariat containing a report of the CPR meetings, which has been made available as a document UNEP EA 7 INF 2. Let me conclude by thanking you all and wishing us all good luck and success in our deliberations, discussions, and decisions this week. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا سعادة رئيس لجنة المندوبين الدائمين.
Thank you very much, Chair of the Committee of Permanent Representatives. I would like to take this opportunity to, on behalf of the entire Assembly, express our deep appreciation to the Committee of Permanent Representatives. To the Vice President Tincopa of Peru, Her Excellency Marie Charlotte of the Philippines, and His Excellency Anwar Ben Youssef of Tunisia, as well as the Rapporteur, Her Excellency Jenny Darin of Australia. As stated by the Chair, the draft decision entitled Management of Trust Funds and Earmarked Contributions, issued as document UNEP/EA.7/L.2, has been recommended by the Open-Ended Committee of Permanent Representatives for adoption by the Assembly. In the interest of time, I propose that the Assembly defer the adoption of this draft decision to the closing plenary meeting to be held on Friday, the 12th of December. I see no objections. It is so decided. As stated by the Chair, 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions are outstanding to be finalised. I therefore propose that the Assembly allocate these draft resolutions and decisions, as well as the non-papers, including those non-papers which are the outcomes of the informal consultations held on Saturday, 6th of December, to the Committee of the Whole. These will form the basis for negotiation and will enable us to finalise pending draft resolutions and decisions for transmission to Assembly for its consideration. I see no objections. It is so decided. The Assembly has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 4. The Assembly will now consider Agenda Item 8. Contributions to meetings of the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development and implementation of the environmental dimension of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Delegations will recall that the Environment Assembly, in its Resolution 3/3 on contributions of the Environment Assembly to the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, decided to provide timely substantive input to the annual meetings of the High-Level Political Forum, held under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council, including during the intersessional period between sessions of the Assembly. Delegations will also recall that the Environment Assembly, in the same resolution, decided that the input to meetings of the High-Level Political Forum would be prepared by the Executive Director or the Secretariat of UNEP under the guidance of the Presidents of the Assembly, in consultation with and for consideration by the Committee of Permanent Representatives. Therefore, no further action is needed by the Assembly. The Assembly has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 8. With this, we have come to the conclusion of the present meeting. I would like to remind delegations that the Committee of the Whole will meet immediately following the adjournment of this meeting in this room. Before adjourning, I would like to turn to the Secretariat to see if there are any housekeeping announcements. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As indicated by the President, the opening plenary of the Committee of the Whole will take place immediately following... Sorry? Thank you, Mr. President. The opening plenary meeting of the Committee of the Whole will take place immediately following the closure of the UNEA opening plenary in this room. Delegations are therefore kindly invited to please remain seated to ensure that we start the opening plenary of the Committee of the Whole on time. A live daily schedule is accessible via the UNEA app as well as on the UNEA 7 website under the tab Program. Delegations are encouraged to download the UNEA app if they had not done so. I wish to remind you that the UN Code of Conduct applies to all UN meetings, and you will find the Code of Conduct available on the UNEA website. The United Nations does not tolerate discrimination or harassment, including sexual harassment, in any of its activities, whether in person or virtual. Once again, we kindly remind delegations to please remain seated for the Committee of the Whole to begin. In addition, I would like to inform delegations that the DSA distribution room is located behind this conference room too. With that, thank you, Mr. President.
شكرا لكم ورفعت الجلسة.
Thank you. The session is adjourned.
Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. Please take your seats. Just keep doing it. Distinguished delegates, please take your seats. Delegates, can you kindly take your seats? Just start reading? Yeah. All right. One last time. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. Again, can you kindly take your seats? All right. I call this meeting to order. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, major groups and stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to open this first plenary meeting of the Committee of the Whole. I look forward to working with all delegations to agree on outstanding draft resolutions and decisions to submit them for final adoption by the 7th session of UNEP. I congratulate Her Excellency Nino Tandilashvili, Vice President of UNEP, and First Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Agriculture of Georgia, on her election as rapporteur. I am looking forward to working closely with you, Excellency. Today, I have the honor to preside over this critical meeting as the GRULAC representative on UNEP 7 Bureau, coming from one of the world's most vulnerable regions. As a minister from St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere, I am acutely aware of the scale of this responsibility and of the sobering reality that some of the smallest nations are now called to help guide one of the most consequential decision-making processes for the global environment in the year ahead. What we are witnessing in the Caribbean, in Asia Pacific, and across all regions must sharpen our focus on the essential purpose of the Committee of the Whole. We are here to act in the spirit of compromise for the good of people and planet. It has been a long, demanding, and purposeful year of preparations for UNEP 7, and the Bureau fully expects that the Committee of the Whole will work constructively to reach consensus on the resolutions and decisions before us. While the pace of our work is critical, with only 2.5 days available, our true measure is distance. We must collectively deliver on the successful adoption of 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions before us. Let us move with urgency, but also with unity, because we can only go far if we go forward together. Before we proceed with our agenda for this plenary meeting, I would like to state that as this is a UN meeting, the UN System Code of Conduct applies, which should allow everyone to participate in an inclusive, respectful, and safe environment, guided by the highest ethical and professional standards. As we advance in our work, differences of opinion may arise. However, it is imperative that we treat one another and the views expressed with utmost respect, while engaging constructively in the spirit of cooperation. As we start the important work of the committee, I call on all delegations to take on a constructive approach and demonstrate willingness to compromise, building on the work that has already been undertaken during the intercessional period and by the open-ended CPR, as well as the informal consultations held on Saturday. We now turn our attention to the provisional agenda of the committee. As set out in the document UNEP/EA.7/CW/1, which has been uploaded to the committee webpage under the UNEA 7 website. I propose that we adopt the provisional agenda. I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you. We now move to agenda item 2 on organization of work. Noting that the progress during the OECPR was slow, I wish to emphasize we have only 2.5 days to finalize negotiations of 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions. In this context, let me also be very clear. The Committee of the Whole must finalize its work on Wednesday evening. It will not be possible to go beyond this time frame. Let me therefore call on each and every delegation to respect this deadline and make every effort to find agreement within the limited time available. Additionally, the proposed guidance for the organization of work, draft structure, and draft schedule for day 1 have been reviewed by the meeting of the Joint Bureau of UNEA and the CPR held yesterday and made available on the Committee of the Whole webpage. The latest versions of the drafts as transmitted by the OECPR to UNEA, as well as several non-papers, are available on the e-proposal module of the e-delegate platform. Allow me to now outline some critical points regarding the organization of our work for the Committee of the Whole. We will organize our work into 2 contact groups, with each contact group responsible for 2 clusters. Contact Group 1 will consist of clusters A and C, while Contact Group 2 will include clusters B and D, each led by co-chairs. No more than 2 clusters will meet in parallel. Clusters A and B will convene in parallel with clusters C and D. Under the guidance of the UNEA Bureau and of the co-chairs, this arrangement may be revisited and adjusted as necessary in consideration of the progress achieved within each cluster. This approach aims to harmonize and streamline the negotiation process, thereby maximizing the conditions conducive to a successful outcome. The co-chairs will report on the outcomes of the contact groups to the stock-taking plenary of the committee, scheduled for Tuesday, 9 December in the evening, and the closing plenary of the committee in the evening of Wednesday, 10 December. At the stock-taking plenary, to take place tomorrow, 9 December at 7 p.m., I hope that we can agree to endorse as many outstanding draft resolutions and decisions as possible, following agreement at reference in the contact groups. At that point, and at that time, we will also decide on how to allocate the remaining time in the contact groups. Drawing from the expertise of the co-facilitators appointed by the UNEA President and the Chair of the CPR, I propose that Contact Group 1 be co-chaired by Ms. Kanako Okana of Japan and Ms. Marie Harelstad of Norway for Cluster A, and Mr. Otumetse of Botswana and Mr. Michael Novashny of Czechia for Cluster C. I also propose that Contact Group 2 be co-chaired by Ms. Sarah El Kouli of Egypt and Mr. Martin Rowe of Germany for Cluster B, and Mr. Nadar Al-Tahrane of Jordan and Mr. Tobias Ogweno of Kenya for Cluster D. The co-chairs will lead negotiations on the drafts under their respective clusters, propose text to resolve deadlocks, and advance discussions, manage schedules and time allocations, convene informal consultations, and manage the process of merging or withdrawal of resolutions. On behalf of the committee, I wish to thank the co-chairs for volunteering to take on this difficult but important work of facilitating our negotiations and consultations. I call on all delegations to engage constructively with respect so that the co-chairs can fulfill their duties and responsibilities. They can only do so if all delegations will fully entrust them with their support. On the documentation of our work, and as decided by UNEA at its opening plenary meeting, the draft resolutions and decisions, as well as the non-papers transmitted by the OECPR to UNEA, will form the basis for negotiations on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. Regarding the conduct of our negotiations, negotiations will take place in person and in English. We will begin our negotiations on the draft resolutions and decisions by focusing on the operative paragraphs. I would like to repeat that negotiations will begin on the operative paragraphs. There will be no call for written submissions. Negotiations will take place in the room and in real time, with delegations invited to present proposals directly in the contact groups. Delegations should refrain from introducing new ideas or concepts at this advanced stage of negotiations. I repeat, delegations should refrain from introducing new ideas or concepts at this advanced stage of negotiations. Let me now outline some key points on the meeting schedule. Contact groups meetings are planned from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., and from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Contact groups could continue their work beyond 10 p.m. on an exceptional basis at this stage. I would like to highlight that considerable number of drafts still under negotiation. I would like to draw to your attention that each contact group has only 23 hours of negotiation to finalize, of negotiation time rather, to finalize the drafts. On the organization of informal consultations, co-chairs may convene additional informal consultations, including with specific groups of delegations or proponents as needed. Given the large number of drafts under consideration, additional informal consultations may take place in parallel with the two contact groups, as well as during break times and in the mornings, provided they avoid parallel scheduling with the regional and political group meetings. The Secretariat will announce these consultations in a timely manner via the UNEA app and reflect them on the UNEA 7 website under Programs. Any outcomes from these consultations will be reported back to the relevant contact group and will be distributed as non-papers through the e-proposal module as appropriate. I trust that this way of organizing our work, agreed by the UNEA and the CPR Bureau, is both clear and practical. Therefore, I would like to propose that we proceed with the organization of work. It is so decided. Thank you. Oh, I see an intervention by Saudi Arabia.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for your leadership leading us to the successful UNEA 7 outcomes. Back to what you said earlier, we're going to have two contact groups running in parallel at the same time. And also you indicated some informal meeting may happen at the same time with the contact group. Given many of the developing countries have a low representation, so we'd like to have only two contact groups running in parallel without informal meetings happening at the same time to take into account delegation with low numbers. Thank you.
Thank you to the delegate from Saudi Arabia. Your position will be considered. I see an intervention from Turkey.
Thank you for giving us the floor. We just want to add our voice to the distinguished delegate from Saudi Arabia.
Thank you to the delegate from Turkey. We also have an intervention from the Islamic Republic of Iran. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, all distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I also would like to echo what was raised by our distinguished colleague from Saudi Arabia, and just for your kind information that in the Bureau meeting also this issue was raised, and it was the understanding of the Bureau of the UNEA 7 that no more INF-IN should be in parallel with the two clusters meetings at the same time. And I do believe that it should go beyond that kind of consideration that you told, and we need some confirmation that, because, you know, Madam Chair, the size of delegations mainly are small sizes, and then they don't have enough capacity to involve in all these rounds of negotiations at the same time. Therefore, this is a request and put to you. Please consider it seriously and just confirm what would be your mind on this, and then we need to make a decision, because we think that this is a concern for many delegations. Thank you.
Thank you to the distinguished delegate. We now give the floor to Qatar.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like also to add our voice to the proposal came from Saudi Arabia about what has been just discussed. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much. We now give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Now, we noticed in your statement that you said that the meeting of the contact groups could continue beyond 10 p.m. on an exceptional basis. Now, we would like to hear from you confirmation of the understanding which was achieved by us during the course of the open-ended working group. The microphone is off for the delegate of the Russian Federation. Technicians. We would like to draw your attention to the understanding which was achieved during the course of the work of the OECPR regarding the fact that extension of work by the contact groups beyond 10 p.m. will only be possible with the agreement of all of the participants of the said contact group. This is something very important. And furthermore, craving your indulgence, Madam Chair, regarding the way we lead our meetings, we conduct our meetings. Now, before we take a decision and gavel it in, we would like to ask you to make sure that you have checked whether everyone who has requested the floor has had a chance to speak. Because formally you've adopted the decision, but a number of countries simply weren't able to ask for the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegate. Your positions have been noted and will be duly considered. We give the floor to the distinguished delegate from Switzerland. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And first of all, congratulations to your nomination and endorsement as a co-chair. I also present a small delegation, so we always understand the concerns that we have to be inclusive, but also very much committed to a good outcome at this UNEA. and we can support the way forward as you have suggested and was discussed in the Bureau. I think also important to note that, as I understood, there's always maximum 2 contact groups in parallel, but then we can go informals, informal groups, and in general those informal groups are smaller groups. They address a certain issue they have to discuss, to resolve, to try to provide solutions, but they will always be brought back to the contact group. So again, then, when we have this principle that we can send certain elements to informals, they can be discussed, countries can propose perhaps compromise language, but it always comes back to the contact group, so to ensure that everybody is fully in the loop and we have an inclusive and transparent process. Thank you.
Norway, the distinguished delegate from Norway, has requested the floor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, Norway supports the suggestion made by Switzerland and the Chair's proposed way forward. Thank you.
We see a request from Bahrain. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to support the proposal put forward by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well as the concerns raised by the Russian Federation. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to congratulate you for your appointment, and we would like to support your proposed way forward. We agree with Switzerland with the fact that if we conduct informal consultations or informal informals, we will coming back to the contact group to report the advances of those discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Australia would also like to make the most of the next 2.5 days to collaborate and make progress on the resolutions, and so we do support the approach suggested by both Norway and Switzerland. Thank you.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK would also like to align with Switzerland. We absolutely recognise the concerns raised by our colleagues with small delegations. I think we need to find pragmatic solutions to that. We need to find ways to burden share. We agree entirely with our colleagues that there must be ways to do that, certainly in informals. We won't get through our work if we don't do that. So we agree with your proposed approach, Chair, and really request that those delegations that are small really try and find a way to accommodate this ask, given the magnitude of the task in front of us. Thank you.
Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colombia would like to align with the statement of GRULAC, in which called the President to not having more than 2 informal or formal groups at the same time, given the rationale that has been shared by other delegations in terms of the limitations for some member states with very small delegations. Thank you.
The United Arab Emirates, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'd like to support the intervention made by Saudi Arabia and the remarks shared by the Russian Federation, and especially even if the informal consultation outcomes will come back to the contact group, but for delegations with limited capacities, and especially those that are participating in certain important elements within the text, it doesn't make much sense for them to miss the informal consultations, even though the outcomes would come back to the contact group. But them missing such important discussion in the informal consultation would be really vital in actually the efficiency of going forward with the resolutions. Thank you so much.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. We agree with your proposed approach as well. Your approach seems to be very pragmatic. We need to deploy flexibility. We need to agree that any decision on extending working time scheduling informal should be agreeable to all, but in all, we agree with Norway, Switzerland, Australia, UK, and others. Thank you.
Tuvalu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Coming from a small delegation ourselves, we share concerns about how to resolve this way forward. But I think a little bit of clarity from you as Chair would help us understand how to move forward. If we are to have informal and formals on a resolution, then we shouldn't be having that same discussion in the contact group. I think that is only reasonable and fair. However, we would support the contact group also meeting at the same time if they're dealing with another resolution, so that we're not having an overlap. And I think that fits quite nicely in the way forward, and I'd seek your guidance on that matter. Thank you.
Algeria, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. We would like just to join those who are asking for not having more than 2 meetings at the parallel, including INF-INFs, next to working groups, because, you know, for the delegations that have like limited number, it's going to be quite difficult for them to follow the 2 clusters and also the INF-INFs at the same time. So please, if you can consider this request. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada would just like to add our voice to those asking to follow your direction, and we support the interventions by Switzerland, EU, UK, Norway, and others. Thank you.
Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me first congratulate you, and we will be glad to follow your guidance in this process. As far as I understood, the CPR Bureau did not have a consensus on the holding of INF-INFs and contact group meetings. What I would propose, maybe we have to start the contact group meetings and then to decide in the meetings how we will move forward with INF-INFs. At this stage, we shouldn't stall the process, just raising the flags and listening to each other how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegates for their positions, which will be considered. First, let me respond to the Russian delegation, the Russian Federation, and agree with your position that the meetings moving beyond 10 p.m. must have the full consensus of the parties involved. So thank you for that intervention. In terms of the positions raised on the informal, while we understand, I understand the views expressed and wish to note that the joint Bureau of UNEA and the CPR at its meeting held yesterday, 7 December, agreed on the proposed organization of work for the Committee of the Whole to consider, which states that the additional informal consultations may take place in parallel with 2 contact groups, as well as during break times and in the mornings, provided they avoid parallel scheduling with regional and political group meetings. I really do plead with delegations that, given the limited time available, to have some degree of flexibility for smaller group informal consultations to take place on the understanding that the outcomes of these consultations will be reported back to the relevant contact group for further consideration to ensure transparency and inclusivity, and also note that the discussions in the informal will not be the same as the discussions or resolutions in the contact group at that time. I am fully aware of the challenges faced by smaller delegations, but we have traveled so far to Nairobi to negotiate and have a successful UNEP. We have to make the most of the limited time that we have to show that multilateralism can deliver. I will work very closely with the co-chairs to ensure that the scheduling of the informals will be done, taking into consideration the number of parallel meetings at any one given time. Delegates from Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for giving Saudi Arabia the floor one more time. So all the outcomes from the Bureau meetings are considered recommendations, and they are not decisions to be adopted by member states. So we are here as a member state. We see divergent views on the way of conduct to the informal meeting. So that's the first issue we are having. The second issue is the contact group. If they feel the importance to have an informal, as happened last week there in the open-ended CPR, then this is up to the contact group and member states present to decide on this matter. But we are not in a position right now to decide on informal meetings happening at the same time with the contact group. We like to have very inclusive and fair representation from all developing countries, as well as the developed countries, to be part of this process. If you have only informal meeting in this situation, we will not reach consensus. Thank you.
Thank you. The Islamic Republic of Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm taking the floor in my national capacity. Actually, in yesterday's afternoon Bureau meeting, there was no consensus on to have additional in addition to the 2 contact groups parallel meetings. And even if there was any sort of agreement and a recommendation by UNEA Bureau, it's only a recommendation, and the member states here have the right to decide on that as how to deal with that. So as my colleague from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia put it, it is hard and difficult for many delegations to cover INF in addition to the 2 parallels meeting, and it will be unfair to those small delegations, and the result and outcomes will be unbalanced and unfair. So I would request that you should take it into account and not allow for any additional INF at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegates. Your positions will be considered. just want to thank all the distinguished delegates for their positions raised, and they have been considered. I must also acknowledge and agree with the last two positions raised, that the Bureau, the Joint Bureau, is the recommendation and the decisions are taken here with committee members. We're discussing this now. We have fully heard your positions. In the interest of not prolonging the deliberation on the organization of work and having no more delays to the tremendous work ahead of us, we will proceed along these lines with the organization of work. The position on moving beyond 10 p.m. is one that has to be taken in full consensus with the contact groups, so the position from the Russian Federation is totally understood and presented to us. Secondly, we recognize the challenges faced by the smaller delegations, and we will proceed to have only the contact groups, no parallel meetings with the informal. The organization of work will be revised by the Secretariat and also will be presented for us again. So I want to thank the delegations for their...
It's not presented. We will, so you gavel it
So we will gavel, once there's full consensus, the organization of work, and the Secretariat will present it for us to reflect on at any other time. Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to confirm our understanding of your proposed way forward, so as was the case in last week, we will not prolong beyond 10 p.m. unless there is consensus within that room to have additional time. And additionally, we will not be having any more than 2 sessions at any given time. So it would be 2 contact groups and no additional infants. And just to confirm, when do you foresee that we would reconsider this matter? As you indicated that this issue will be presented to us once again, unless our understanding is we'll be agreeing on the mode of work of the entire week today. Thank you.
Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And also just to confirm our understanding of the suggestion you just made. So that would mean that the contact groups, they have, as usual, the possibility to decide or to discuss among themselves what kind of tools they use. So if they want to send a group of countries in a huddle, for example, if they would encourage a group of countries to further consider a certain para to come back to next contact group meeting with perhaps new language. So that this can always be done, as I also mentioned, I think, by Delegate Puntuvalu, as usual, as we work in this area here. Thank you.
So the organization of work, we will agree that we do not move beyond 10 p.m. unless there is consensus from all participants in the contact groups, that there will be no informals conducted in parallel with the contact groups. And because we do have the stock-taking plenary tomorrow, should there be any need for us to adjust the organization of work, we will do that at that time. Is this position agreeable? Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is certainly agreeable. But just to confirm, you mean 2 contact groups, not any more than 2 contact groups. Thank you.
Yes, correct. Not any more than 2 contact groups. May I take it that we proceed with this organizational arrangement? It is so decided. Thank you. We will thus revert to this agenda item at our stocktake plenary meeting scheduled for Tuesday evening. We now move to the closing of this opening plenary. I propose that we allow for contact groups to begin their work at 2 p.m. today, based on the agreed structure. Let me reiterate that I count on your full and active support so that we can finalize our work with a successful result by Wednesday evening at the very latest. I now invite the Secretariat to make some logistical announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to inform you that Contact Group 1, which will be looking at Cluster A, will meet from 2 p.m. in Conference Room 1. Contact Group 2, which will be looking at Cluster B, will meet from 2 p.m. in this room, Conference Room 2. Delegates are also reminded that the live daily schedule is accessible via the UNEA app, as well as on the UNEA website under the tab Program. As I mentioned at the closing plenary meeting, delegations are please encouraged to download the app because the most updated information is available on the app. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Distinguished delegates, let us now not let the perfect stand in the way of doing good. Given the lack of sufficient progress so far, we all need to understand the sense of urgency. In short, I call on all delegations to realize the seriousness of this situation and start compromising as we have just done. Thank you all. We shall resume our meeting in plenary tomorrow evening, 9 December at 7 p.m. This plenary is adjourned.